On June 3, 2002, Alex Meyer's satellite phone sent one last message, a simple text that didn't bode ill. "The views here are amazing. Sarah is loving the sunset lighting. Tomorrow we climb another 1,000 meters. Communication may be down for a couple days." No one imagined that these mundane words would become the final testament to the existence of two people. 32-year-old photographer Alex Meyer and his 28-year-old fiancée Sarah Kinski disappeared among the majestic peaks of the Rocky Mountains, leaving behind only a mystery that decades later continues to stir the imagination of paranormal researchers and confound investigators. The northern quadrant of the Rocky Mountains greeted them with stark grandeur. Sheer cliffs of dark granite rose to a height of over 3,000 meters, their peaks covered with snow most of the year. Narrow gorges with turbulent streams of meltwater cut through the mountain massif. Dense coniferous forests at the foot were replaced by alpine meadows, and above, by rocky placers and bare rocks. Sharp temperature changes, sudden thunderstorms, and fogs made this area unpredictable, even for experienced climbers. This region wasn't just little explored, it was shrouded in warnings. Local guides referred to some areas as places of silence, where cell phones and radios refused to work and compasses malfunctioned. Native people, the Shoshone, had avoided certain valleys and gorges for centuries, calling them soul collector trails. Alex Meyer and Sarah Kinski were more than just a couple. They were like-minded individuals bound by a shared passion for photography and wildlife. 32-year-old Alex, who grew up amidst the majestic landscapes of Colorado, had a special gift for finding beauty in harsh landscapes. His fiancée, 28-year-old Sarah, brought to their union an artistic vision and technical skill that turned their collaborative work into works of art. In early June of 2002, they embarked on an ambitious expedition, a 2-week journey through the little-explored northern sector of the Rocky Mountains. It wasn't just another photo shoot. For Sarah, these images were to be the centerpieces of her first solo exhibition. For Alex, an opportunity to explore places he'd dreamed of seeing since childhood. They were so enthusiastic about the trip, Elizabeth, Sarah's sister, recalled as she leafed through their latest posts. Sarah talked about some special light in those mountains that she wanted to capture. Alex joked that they were going hunting for magic. Police reports reveal that preparations for the expedition were meticulous. The couple bought the latest equipment, lightweight tents made of durable nylon, designed for extreme weather conditions, waterproof sleeping bags, a compact gas burner, navigation equipment, and a satellite phone. Alex, an engineer by first education, had installed special software on his laptop to work with maps and weather forecasts. Their car, a blue Jeep Cherokee 2,000-year-old, was found in a parking lot near the beginning of the Silver Creek hiking trail. Inside were car papers, insurance, and a detailed route plan, a copy of which Alex had previously sent to his brother. The itinerary was designed for 14 days and included an ascent to the Eagle's Nest Plateau, a crossing of Black Creek Gorge, and a descent into the Three Sisters Valley. The first few days of the trip were documented through short messages to family and stunning photographs the couple posted using a satellite phone. The images showed serene mountain lakes, whimsical rock formations, and delicate alpine flowers poking through the rocky soil. The last published photo showed Alex and Sarah smiling against the setting sun, tired but happy. It was that photo that became the centerpiece of a makeshift memorial that relatives installed in their Boulder apartment. The photo was taken at 6 o'clock on the evening of June 2002, 24 hours before the last message. The geotags indicated coordinates 21 kilometers from the starting point of the route, exactly as Alex had charted it. What happened next remains the subject of agonizing speculation and contradictory theories. It is only known that after the message of the 3rd of June, communication with the couple was interrupted. Initially, the relatives were not worried. Alex warned of possible problems with communication in the Highlands. However, when the silence dragged on for a week, Alex's brother, John Meyer, contacted emergency services. The search area was a challenging stretch of mountainous terrain. Trees here grew on steep slopes, their roots clinging to the scant soil between the rocks. The gorges were like deep scars in the earth, with steep walls and rumbling streams at the bottom. Depending on the altitude, the plant life changed as well, from dense pine forest below to scant lichens at the upper forest edge. Predators, grizzly bears, mountain lions, wolves, reigned in these areas, rarely encountering humans. This was one of the largest search operations in the park's history, recounted James Howell, coordinator of the Rocky Mountain Rescue Service. We involved 84 professional rescuers, 12 canine units, 4 helicopters, and dozens of volunteers. An area of 230 square kilometers was combed literally 1 meter at a time. The more surprising were the results of the search, the complete absence of any trace of the couple's stay on the route after the 3rd of June. No scraps of clothing, no wrappers from granola bars, which Alex and Sarah had taken with them in large quantities, no traces of campfires, no boot prints. The search dogs had lost track several times in rocky areas and then refused to work in certain areas altogether, showing signs of restlessness. I have 30 years of search and rescue experience, Howell admitted. I've never seen anything like this. People always leave traces. Even if a person is dead, evidence remains, signs of a struggle with wild animals, a piece of equipment, a body, after all. But here, it's as if the couple vanished into thin air. After 3 months of fruitless searching, the operation was called off. The official statement read, "Presumed death as a result of an accident in the wilderness." However, the absence of bodies and any evidence of the tragedy left room for doubt and speculation. Local authorities and the FBI took over the investigation. Agents checked the couple's financial accounts, phone calls, email correspondence, and interviewed co-workers and acquaintances. No signs of a deliberate disappearance were found. Alex and Sarah had no debts, legal problems, or conflicts with relatives. On the contrary, a week before the expedition, they had put down a deposit to rent a banquet hall for an upcoming wedding. "We looked at every possible scenario," FBI Special Agent Michael Donovan said. "An accident, a wild animal attack, a criminal incident, a voluntary disappearance. But each theory contained critical contradictions with the available facts. The only clue was the testimony of 2 hikers who had been in the area in early June. A couple from Wyoming reported that on the evening of June 4th, at about 8 o'clock, they observed a strange glow on the north slope of Gray Peak Mountain. It didn't look like a campfire or lanterns, Karen Johnson claimed. The light was bluish, pulsing, like something alive. It moved between the trees, appearing and disappearing. We figured it was some kind of atmospheric phenomenon. The coordinates of Alex and Sarah's estimated location on the 4th of June, according to their itinerary, were about 3 kilometers from the point where the hikers observed the strange glow. However, without further evidence, it was impossible to link the events. The search continued until the onset of winter, after which it was officially suspended until spring. But even when the snow melted, new expeditions brought no results. Alex and Sarah's relatives refused to accept the unknown. They hired private investigators, appealed to mediums and psychics, pasted posters, and created a website dedicated to the search for the couple. But the years passed, and the mystery remained unsolved. It seemed that the case was doomed to remain in the archives of unsolved incidents. But fate had it differently. On July 23rd, 2 years and 50 days after the disappearance, a group of 3 climbers came across an untouched camp in a narrow gorge 12 kilometers from Alex and Sarah's intended route. What they found there did more than revive interest in the mysterious disappearance. It turned it into one of the most gruesome mysteries of modern forensics. On June 10th, 2002, the phone in John Meyer's house rang at 6 o'clock in the morning. He grabbed the receiver, hoping to hear his brother's voice. Instead, there was only an indifferent electronic signal on the line. Alex's satellite phone was trying to connect, but the connection dropped after 3 seconds. It was the last ghostly contact with the pair of photographers who had vanished without a trace in the wild mountains of Colorado. "I knew something was wrong," John recalled 2 years later. Alex never missed a milestone deadline. If he said he'd be in touch in a week, then he was doing his best to keep his word. When it was 7 days after his last message, I started calling rescue services. In the room of the National Park Service Crisis Center, the air was stale with tension. Representatives from rescue services, local police, and volunteers from climbing clubs gathered around a large table with maps spread out. Red markers marked Alex and Sarah's planned route, a 14-day trek through the northern sector of the Rocky Mountains, carefully prepared and detailed by experienced hikers. One of the largest search operations in the region's history was launched. 84 professional rescuers, 12 dog handlers, 4 helicopters, and over 50 volunteers scoured the area specified in the itinerary. The search area covered 230 square kilometers of wilderness. The mountainous landscape presented a serious challenge, even for experienced searchers. Deep gorges, where the temperature dropped by dozens of meters, alternated with vast rocky plateaus, blown by all winds. In the dense coniferous forests, visibility did not exceed 10 meters, and turbulent mountain rivers, swollen from summer snowmelt, made many areas virtually impassable. The weather conditions during that period were extreme even for these places, explained Mark Taylor, a meteorologist in Boulder. Daytime temperatures reached 28 degrees Celsius, but dropped to 5 or 6 degrees at night. 3 times during June, the area experienced thunderstorm fronts with powerful downpours. In such conditions, an unprepared person could die of hypothermia overnight. The couple's relatives clung to this information like a straw. Alex and Sarah were far from novices. Both had certifications in extreme survival. Their gear included emergency beacons, a 20-day supply of food, medical supplies, and a portable water purifier. They could survive bad weather, injury, even serious illness. But as the days of the search turned into weeks, hope melted away. Search teams methodically explored every square meter of the supposed route and found absolutely nothing. "I've been in rescue operations for 30 years, said James Howell, the search team leader. "I've never seen anything like this. Usually people leave traces, food wrappers, cigarette butts, boot prints, marks on trees, remnants of campfires. There was nothing here. Not a single piece of evidence that Alex and Sarah even walked this area after June 3rd. Search dogs trained to find human remains exhibited strange behavior in certain parts of the route. They began to whimper, refused to go further, and huddled at the feet of the guides. Experienced canines could not explain such reactions. There were no odors of decomposition or predators in those areas, recalled Sandra Morgan, a dog handler with 15 years of experience. But the dogs reacted as if something in the very air was causing them a primal fear. My Bella, who had been through dozens of rescues, would literally shiver and try to crawl away when we approached a certain ravine. After 3 months of fruitless searching, the operation was officially scrapped. No bodies were found. No signs of struggle, accident, or crime could be found. The official version, announced by the authorities at a press conference on September 10, 2002, sounded dry and disappointing. Presumed death as a result of an accident in the wilderness. The families were offered a symbolic farewell ceremony. But how to accept death without proof? How to mourn empty coffins? "I can't bury an empty casket," Maria Kinski, Sarah's mother, told the Denver Post, a local newspaper. "Every time the phone rings, I think, what if it's her? Every time someone knocks on the door, we deserve to know the truth, no matter how scary it is." Local authorities and the FBI's Special Missing Persons Unit took over the investigation. Agents checked Alex and Sarah's bank accounts, phone calls, and email correspondence over the past year. Examined their computers, interviewed co-workers, friends, former lovers. There was no sign of a deliberate disappearance. On the contrary, all the circumstances pointed to people making plans for the future. A week before the trip, Sarah had put down a deposit on the wedding hall rental for October of that year. Alex had paid for a year's car insurance. Both bought tickets for a concert to be held a month after their return from the expedition. Over 150 tourists who visited the region during the first days of June were interviewed. 2 of them, a married couple from Wyoming, reported a strange glow they observed on the north slope on the evening of June 4th. "It was an unnatural bluish light flickering between the trees," claimed Robert Johnson. "Too bright for a flashlight, too erratic for a campfire. It moved like a living thing." But the coordinates of the sighting were 5 kilometers from Alex and Sarah's supposed waypoint on that date. Without further evidence, this testimony was categorized as not directly relevant. The winter months brought meter-high snowdrifts and temperatures as low as -30 to the mountains. The search was officially suspended until spring. When the snow melted, new expeditions using improved technology, thermal imagers, drones, more sensitive detectors, also yielded no results. After the official investigation was closed, the case gradually went unsolved. Alex Meyer and Sarah Kinski's disappearance file took its place in the archives, along with thousands of other cases of mysterious disappearances in U.S. national parks. But the families refused to accept it. John Meyer took a year's vacation and moved to Colorado to coordinate a private search. He hired retired detectives, contacted psychics and mediums, and consulted cryptozoologists studying creatures unknown to science. Sarah's parents created a fund to find missing persons in the wilderness, which raised over $200,000 in donations. The search for the couple became the subject of the documentary Disappeared, released on the Discovery Channel in 2003 years. Journalists put forward more and more exotic versions, from kidnapping by a secret government organization to a meeting with unidentified flying objects. But the mountains remained silent. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, months into years. Alex and Sarah's case was slowly becoming a legend, a story told around a campfire to scare newcomers. Local guides warned hikers to avoid certain parts of the trail where that pair of photographers disappeared. And then, on July 23, 2004, something happened that made even the most hardened skeptics shudder. A group of 3 climbers exploring a little-known gorge discovered an intact camp. 2 tents set up according to all the rules, backpacks with belongings, photo equipment on a tripod, and inside the tents, IDs for Alex Meyer and Sarah Kinski. In the 2 years and 50 days since their disappearance, no one had bothered their camp. But the most disturbing thing was revealed when experts retrieved photos from Sarah's camera. If this story intrigued you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks to your activity, YouTube algorithms will better promote our content, and more people will get to know this mysterious story. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next chapters of this investigative documentary. In the pre-dawn twilight of July 23, 2004, 3 silhouettes slowly descended the rocky slope into the uncharted gorge of the North Ridge. Michael Gardner, an experienced climber with 15 years of experience, was the first to spot a glimpse of blue fabric between the mossy boulders. What they discovered in the following minutes didn't just reopen a long-dead investigation. It turned the disappearance of Alex Meyer and Sarah Kinski into one of the most eerie mysteries of modern forensics. "I thought I was going to find anything but this," Gardner later recounted, clutching a cup of cold coffee in the interrogation room. The 2 tents stood as if they had been set up yesterday, perfectly level, without a single dent, strung exactly as instructed, no signs of struggle or hurried flight. It was as if time had stood still in this place. 2 years and 37 days after the pair of photographers disappeared, something happened that overturned all previous notions of their fate. A group of 3 climbers exploring a little visited gorge 12 kilometers from the couple's intended route came across an untouched camp, a frozen moment from the past preserved in frightening integrity. The narrow gorge where the camp was found was a natural rift in a mass of dark gray granite. The walls, rising to a height of 70 meters, were covered with a thin veil of lichen, and the bottom was lined with smooth stones, polished by a mountain stream that turned into a rushing torrent during the spring snowmelt. Now, in midsummer, the creek had shallowed to a trickle of water running between the rocks. The vegetation here was sparse, a few squat pines with trunks twisted by constant winds, stiff shrubs clinging by their roots to crevices, and sparse patches of alpine flowers. The climate in the gorge was characterized by extreme fluctuations. During the day, the sun reflecting off the rock walls created the effect of an oven, and at night, the cold air flowed down from the peaks, lowering the temperature to a few degrees above zero, even in the height of summer. What had caused Alex and Sarah to deviate from their planned route and set up camp in this inaccessible place? The gorge was off the hiking trails and could only be reached by climbing a rocky ridge of difficulty category 3B, a task requiring specialized training and equipment. They couldn't have been there by accident, Robert Clark, the investigator who led the reopened investigation, later emphasized. It was a conscious decision that required considerable effort and mountaineering experience. Eric Steiner, the second member of the team that discovered the camp, was the first to approach the tents. "I was struck by their preservation," he recalled. "No signs of rotting on the fabric, no damage from animals or weather. In the mountains, nature usually takes its toll in 2 years. Ultraviolet degrades synthetic materials, rodents chew through fabric, snow and rain deform the structure. But these tents looked mothballed. Inside the first tent, painted in deep blue, were neatly folded sleeping bags, 2 flashlights with dead batteries, spare clothes, woolen socks, thermal underwear, waterproof jackets. Everything was laid out with the pedantic precision typical of experienced travelers accustomed to limited space. The second tent, smaller and green in color, contained technical equipment: climbing carabiners, ropes, ice crampons, a spare gas cylinder for the burner. Under the tarpaulin canopy between the tents, there was an improvised kitchen, a gas burner with an empty cylinder, a saucepan, 2 titanium cups, containers with long ago spoiled food. But the most important finds waited inside the backpacks discovered in the blue tent. IDs for Alex Meyer and Sarah Kinski, passports, driver's licenses, insurance. Alex's wallet contained $327 in cash and 4 credit cards. Sarah's wallet contained $243 and a photograph of an elderly woman, presumably her mother. All valuables were left in their proper places, Detective Clark noted in the report. This ruled out a version of robbery or theft. Moreover, the presence of all personal papers contradicted the theory of voluntary disappearance. People planning to start a new life don't leave passports and money behind. Among Sarah's personal belongings, they found a leather diary in a waterproof case. The entries broke off on the 3rd day of the trip, June 5th of the year 2002. The last entry contained disturbing details. Heard strange noises again in the night. Alex says it's wind in the rocks, but it doesn't sound like wind. More like breathing? I can't shake the feeling that we're being watched. We're changing our route tomorrow. We want to explore the North Canyon. This recording confirmed the deliberate change of route, but did not explain why the pair had strayed so far from their original plan. What drove them deeper into a little explored area that required serious mountaineering skills? The most disturbing find, however, was Sarah's professional camera, discovered on a tripod 10 meters from the camp. The Canon EOS 1D, a high-end digital camera worth about $8,000, was pointed toward a narrow passage between rocks leading deeper into the gorge. The camera was protected by a special rain cover. The battery was long dead, but the memory card was still intact. FBI technical experts retrieved 37 images from the card. The first 32 were ordinary nature photos, stunning shots of majestic mountain landscapes, sunsets playing with light on granite cliffs, close-ups of rare alpine flowers, a few portraits of a smiling Alex against panoramic vistas. The quality of these photographs confirmed Sarah's professionalism, noted Jonathan Murphy, an FBI technician who worked on the images. Perfect exposure, calibrated composition, and masterful use of natural light. These shots would grace any geography magazine. But the last 5 images stood in stark contrast to the rest. They were taken at night, with the flash on. The images were blurred, as if the camera was shaking or the photographer was in motion. In each image, glowing eyes were clearly visible in the darkness, large, at human height, but with an uncharacteristic distance between them for humans or known animals. These eyes do not belong to any known Rocky Mountain animal species, concluded cryptozoologist David Marshall, who was brought in to investigate. The distance between the eyes is about 25 centimeters, which is greater than any North American raptor. The reflection of light has an unusual spectrum not characteristic of cats or dogs. It is definitely not a bear, cougar, or wolf. The photo's metadata indicated that the sequence of images was taken on June 6 between 2 and 3 a.m. A day after Sarah's last diary entry and 3 days after the couple's last known contact with the outside world. When analyzing the last, 5th photo in detail, experts discovered another disturbing detail. When the contrast and brightness were increased, a vague silhouette resembling a human figure, but with disproportionately long limbs, appeared behind the glowing eyes. However, the quality of the image did not allow making unambiguous conclusions. The crime lab personnel were carefully surveying the perimeter of the camp, gathering any potential evidence. Despite the hard, rocky ground, which did not preserve traces well, the specialists found strange marks on some trees, broken branches at a height of about 3 meters, as if something large had passed through the forest area at the entrance to the gorge. But the most puzzling discovery was the biological samples collected from the outside of the tents. Microscopic traces of an unknown mucus-like substance with a high protein content were found on the tissue, the lab report reported. When we performed standard DNA analysis, we received results that caused us to triple-check the data. The sample contained genetic sequences that did not match any known biological species in our databases. The FBI Biochemistry Lab's official conclusion suggested possible sample contamination or technical error in the analysis process. However, the technicians who directly conducted the tests privately expressed full confidence in the accuracy of the results. After the discovery of the camp, a massive search operation was immediately resumed. For 6 weeks, the area within a radius of 20 kilometers from the found camp was thoroughly surveyed using the latest technology: thermal imaging cameras, drones with high-resolution cameras, GPR capable of detecting anomalies beneath the surface of the Earth. The result was as discouraging as it had been 2 years ago. No trace of Alex and Sarah, no bodies, no remains, not even small personal items that might indicate their direction of travel after they left the camp. The investigation has hit a dead end when faced with an irresolvable contradiction. All of the couple's personal belongings remained at the camp, including documents, money, and valuable equipment. But the men themselves disappeared into the wilderness without a trace of their movements. This violates every principle of forensic science, Robert Clark admitted in a confidential report to FBI superiors. People cannot vaporize without a trace. Even assuming death by accident or animal attack, there has to be some evidence left behind. Here, however, we have a camp that looks as if its occupants have gone out for a momentary stroll and are about to return. As the investigation deepened, the story took an increasingly bizarre turn. A few weeks after the discovery of the camp, inexplicable events began to happen to the people who had direct contact with the items found. "I've seen things I can't explain with logic or science." These words belong to Dr. Mark Devlin, a neuropsychologist with 25 years of experience, a skeptic accustomed to seeking a rational explanation for any anomaly. After a week spent exploring the gorge where Alex Meyer and Sarah Kinski's camp was found, he refused to continue working. In his resignation letter, he wrote a phrase that stunned his colleagues. "In this place, something is between the layers of reality, and it knows we are here." In the absence of official explanations, Alex and Sarah's case has become a magnet for those seeking answers on the border between the known and the unfathomable. During the years 2005 and 2006, more than 20 expeditions of various kinds visited the little-known gorge in the northern sector of the Rocky Mountains. Paranormal researchers, anthropologists studying local folklore, and physicists who found strange anomalies in the area became interested in the story. The gorge where these groups arrived was an inhospitable place. Sheer granite walls over 70 meters high made it feel like a stone trap. Sunlight penetrated the bottom only a few hours a day when the sun was at its zenith. The rest of the time, a dusky chill enveloped the narrow passage between the rocks. Sounds here were distorted in bizarre ways. An ordinary conversation could suddenly fade as if swallowed by a rock, and a faint rustle from across the gorge could be heard with frightening clarity. The vegetation was sparse and sickly. Twisted pines with sparse needles, lichens of an unnatural pale yellow color, moss that glowed in the dark with a faint phosphorescent light. Animals avoided these places. No birds, no insects, no small rodents common in mountainous areas. The silence, interrupted only by the sound of the wind, created an oppressive feeling of alienation from the world of the living. Indigenous people were the first to propose an unofficial theory as to the cause of the pair's disappearance. Joseph Running Deer, a 68-year-old elder of the Shoshone tribe, had long refused to talk to researchers. When a Yale University anthropologist did convince him to grant an interview, the old man reluctantly shared an ancient legend. Our ancestors spoke of a creature living high up in the mountains called He Who Gathers Souls, he said slowly, looking not at his interlocutor, but somewhere through her. It attracts people, causing them to change their path, to go where they hadn't planned. The creature feeds not on bodies, but on a person's essence, leaving the shell intact. Our tales say that sometimes it takes people whole, then no bodies are found. Sometimes it leaves empty shells. Then the person returns, but it is no longer the person who left. When the anthropologist asked for a description of the creature's appearance, Joseph was silent for a long time, then replied, "It has no permanent form, but the eyes are always the same, large, glowing in the dark, set wider apart than in humans or animals." Such legends are usually viewed skeptically by modern science, categorized as folkloric explanations of natural phenomena or psychological phenomena. But a geologic study of the area, conducted 3 years after the camp was found, revealed unexplained anomalies that have led scientists to question purely materialistic explanations. A group of geophysicists from the University of Colorado installed measuring equipment within a kilometer radius from the site of the discovery of the camp, recorded strange fluctuations in the magnetic field, not corresponding to known natural processes. The local magnetic anomaly, the center of which was located 100 meters from the camp, showed instability depending on the time of day. The peak of deviations occurred in the pre-dawn hours, between 3 and 4 in the morning. Even more alarming was the detection of elevated background radiation, which did not pose an immediate health risk for short-term stays, but significantly exceeded background values for the area. Instrument readings fluctuate wildly for no apparent reason, noted Dr. Adrian Hoffman, the study's leader. At times, Geiger counters go off the scale for a few minutes, then return to normal values. Such anomalies can affect the operation of navigational instruments and, theoretically, the mental state of people staying in the area of exposure for long periods of time. The strange electromagnetic phenomena could explain some aspects of the disappearance: electronics failure, disorientation in space, perhaps even hallucinations or perceptual distortions. But they did not answer the main question. Where did the two adults disappear to without leaving any trace? An alarming aspect of the case was the inexplicable events that occurred to people who came into direct contact with the find. The 5 members of the search team who had first investigated Alex and Sarah's camp began complaining of recurring nightmares. They independently described the same dream: a dark ravine glowing eyes watching from the darkness, and an oppressive feeling that something is taking a part of you. Michael Gardner, one of the 3 climbers who discovered the camp, was hospitalized 4 months after the discovery with a diagnosis of acute psychosis. In his delirium, he kept repeating phrases that the medical staff recorded for investigators. "They're still there. They see us through the pictures. The eyes. They use the eyes as doors." Mental health professionals attributed his condition to post-traumatic stress disorder and possible exposure to unknown toxins in the area of the find. The second member of the group, Eric Steiner, suddenly quit mountaineering, which he had practiced for more than 20 years. He sold all his gear, moved from mountainous Colorado to a coastal town in Oregon, and adamantly refused to discuss the accident. In a single interview with the local newspaper, he uttered a phrase that later became widely quoted in paranormal circles. "There are some things that are better left untouched, places where people shouldn't go, boundaries we shouldn't cross." By 2010, interest in the case began to wane. The official investigation was closed, categorized as unsolved with insufficient evidence. Alex and Sarah's relatives, tired of endless theories and speculation, refused contact with the press and researchers. The area where the camp was found was declared closed to the public due to environmental instability and risk of rockfall. It seemed that the story of the disappeared couple of photographers would gradually pass into the category of urban legends, tourist stories told around the campfire to frighten newcomers. But in 2013, 11 years after the first disappearance, something happened that made many believe in the supernatural nature of what was happening. A young couple of hikers from Seattle, Brian and Jennifer Coleman, went on a 2-day hike in the northern sector of the Rocky Mountains, in an area about 7 kilometers from where Alex and Sarah's camp was discovered. Experienced hikers, they planned to return by the evening of August 18th, but did not show up by the appointed time. Given the sad history of the area, the rescue operation was launched immediately. More than 60 specialists equipped with the latest search technology, thermal imagers, drones, satellite tracking, combed the area for 2 weeks. The result was as discouraging as it had been 11 years earlier. No trace of the pair was found. And then, on September 16th, the rescuers stumbled upon the Coleman's last campsite, a small green tent perched on the edge of a rocky ledge overlooking the valley. Inside were untouched backpacks, supplies of food and water, papers, and money. On a small gas primus stood a pot of water that had long since evaporated. It looked as if the couple had gone away for a few minutes, planning to return soon. Among their belongings, they found a digital camera with a single snapshot, a blurry image of a blue tent identical to the one Alex and Sarah had lived in. In the background, the outline of rocks could be seen, exactly matching the landscape of the gorge where the couple's camp was found. That said, according to official National Park Service records, the original camp of the missing 2002 had long ago been dismantled and removed for laboratory research. The blue tent was stored in a sealed container in the FBI's evidence storage facility in Denver. Technical analysis of the photograph revealed that the picture was taken at 4 hours and 37 minutes on the morning of August 15th, 2013. Experts confirmed that the image had not been digitally processed. It was an authentic photograph of something that could not physically exist in reality. This discovery sparked a new wave of interest in the mystery of the Rocky Mountains. Research teams of various specializations, from traditional scientists to ghost hunters, rushed to the area of the disappearance. Authorities were forced to impose a total ban on visiting the area within a 15-kilometer radius of where the last camp was found. In 2015, physicist Richard Cochrane, who won the Nobel Prize for his work in quantum mechanics, received special permission to conduct a series of experiments in the restricted area. After 3 months of research, he came up with a hypothesis that went far beyond traditional science. We have recorded statistically significant deviations in the passage of light waves through the gorge space, he reported at a private conference. It's as if something is distorting the very structure of reality in the local area. From the point of view of theoretical physics, we could have found a place with unstable quantum characteristics. In simple words, an area where the laws of physics work differently. Cochrane suggested the existence of what he called a quantum anomaly, a region of space where the barrier between different quantum states becomes permeable. According to his theory, under certain conditions, perhaps related to geomagnetic fluctuations, solar activity, or other as yet unknown factors, time tunnels between different versions of reality could occur in this zone. What we are used to thinking of as a single, continuous reality is, at the quantum level, a multitude of parallel states, Cochrane explained. Under ordinary conditions, these states are isolated from each other. But it is theoretically possible for there to be points where the barriers thin out, allowing, shall we say, the leakage of information or even matter between different quantum worlds. These words, spoken by a respected scientist of international renown, not an eccentric ghost hunter, made many people think, what if there are places where the boundary between different states of reality becomes permeable? And what if Alex Meyer and Sarah Kinsky, and later Brian and Jennifer Coleman, accidentally discovered one such place? Cochrane's theory was met with skepticism in the scientific community. Critics pointed to a lack of empirical evidence, methodological problems in experiments, and alternative explanations for observed phenomena. But for those who encountered the unexplained phenomena in the gorge, his words sounded like a welcome, albeit frightening, explanation. On April 17, 2018, John Meyer opened an inconspicuous, unaddressed envelope delivered to his home in Portland. A thin brown package, it revealed a plastic case containing a flash drive and a piece of paper with a short, handwritten note. He wanted you to see this. I can't keep it to myself anymore. Those 20 words, written in uneven handwriting, 16 years after his brother's disappearance, opened a new chapter in a story that many thought was closed. John, graying and gaunt from years of uncertainty, plugged the flash drive into the computer with trembling hands. His brother's face appeared on the screen, recognizable, but strangely changed. It was a video that cast doubt on every version of the disappearance put forward over the years. Alex was alive at the time this video was recorded, 64-year-old John Meyer confirmed in a meeting with reporters. And from what he said, he and Sarah deliberately went somewhere they didn't plan to return from. The video, dated the 1st of June 2002, 2 days before the last known report, recorded the bizarre monologue. The recording was made at night. A young man, undoubtedly Alex Meyer, sat by a small fire, illuminating his face with an uneven, flickering light. His features looked gaunt. Dark shadows lingered under his eyes, and his gaze was both intense and strangely detached. Sarah did not appear in the frame, but the sound of footsteps and the rustle of clothing could be heard in the background, indicating the presence of another person. The surroundings seemed like an ordinary mountain forest, the dark silhouettes of pine trees outlined by the light of the fire, the stony ground covered with needles, the roughness of the mountainous terrain lost in the darkness. And yet there was something subtly unsettling about the place, the strange shadows moving out of sync with the flames of the fire, the unnatural pressing silence of a forest devoid of the usual night sounds. "John, if you're watching this, it means something's gone wrong," Alex began, looking over his shoulder periodically, as if expecting to see something important there. "Sarah and I discovered something. I don't know how to describe it. It's not really a place, more like the boundaries between places. We stumbled upon it by accident 3 days ago. Sarah was taking pictures of the sunset, and something that wasn't really there appeared in the pictures. Eyes. Lots of eyes." At those words, the camera shook, as if the cameraman had flinched. Alex rubbed his face nervously with his palms, his fingers visibly twitching. He looked both exhausted and excited, like a man on the verge of an important discovery, but exhausted by insomnia and stress. At first we thought it was a camera defect, then that it was some animal we hadn't noticed. But yesterday we saw them for ourselves. Without the camera. They're watching from beyond the line of sight, and it changed us. Sarah says she sees the world differently now, in layers. I'm starting to see it too. There was a strange sound in the background, something between a whisper and the rustling of leaves, but with an unnatural rhythm that resembled speech. Alex flinched, turned around quickly, then looked at the camera again. An expression that could have been either fear or awe flashed in his eyes. "I don't believe we're in danger. It is more of an invitation. We've decided to explore it further. Sarah believes we may be able to document contact with something non-human. Not alien, but rather from another layer of reality." His gaze unfocused for a moment, then he blinked and looked directly into the camera. His eyes reflected not only the light of the campfire, but also some other bluish glow, the source of which was out of sight. "If something goes wrong and we don't come back, know this. We left voluntarily. Do not look for our bodies. What we found, it changes the essence of what it means to be human. Just..." At that moment, the video cut off. The technical experts brought in by the Meyer family scrutinized the tape. Their conclusion was unequivocal. The video had not been edited or digitally processed. It was an authentic, uninterrupted piece of footage shot on the camera listed in the file's metadata. The same camera that was later found at the missing persons camp. It was not possible to establish the origin of the flash drive and the note. The envelope was mailed from a Denver post office without identifying the sender, and surveillance cameras captured only an obscure hooded figure. Examination of the paper and ink revealed no features. Ordinary printer paper and ballpoint pen available at any stationery store. Alex Meyer's video has sparked a new wave of interest in the disappearance story. His words about layers of reality and beings observing from beyond the visible echoed the theory of quantum anomalies proposed by physicist Richard Cochrane 3 years ago. After the discovery of the videotape, the case was unofficially reopened. Several research teams funded by private organizations were allowed brief access to the restricted area. Among them were specialists from various fields: physicists, geologists, anthropologists, and paranormal experts. The area where Alex and Sarah's camp was found had changed over the years. The rocky soil had become softer, covered with a thick layer of unusual moss with a purple hue not found in other parts of the park. The trees within 100 meters of the campsite were dead, their gray skeletons stripped of their bark and frozen in bizarre poses that resembled figures in motion. The stream that flowed through the gorge changed course, skirting the exact spot where the tent stood, as if the water refused to flow through that point in space. The very ecology of the place has changed here. noted botanist Jeffrey Lindsay, a participant in one of the expeditions. We're seeing plant species that don't match the altitude, the climate zone, the soil. Some samples of mosses and lichens show genetic traits that are not characteristic of North American flora. In 2021 year, another unexpected discovery happened. A group of geologists conducting a routine mapping of the region using LiDAR imaging discovered a strange anomaly beneath the surface of the ground at the location of Alex and Sarah's camp, an irregularly shaped cavity about 15 meters deep. The cavity was about 40 by 50 meters in size and, judging from the scans, contained no rocks or water, but was an empty space. It was impossible to get permission to excavate. The area had by then been declared a closed, protected zone with a special access regime. The official reason for the ban was preservation of a unique ecosystem and protection of rare species of flora. In 2023 years, a group of scientists from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology still received special permission for a comprehensive study of the anomalous zone. The expedition, led by neurophysicist Dr. Amana Chopra and theoretical physicist Brian Lewinsky, spent 3 weeks in the gorge using state-of-the-art equipment to analyze all aspects of the anomaly, from geomagnetic fields to spectral analysis of light. The preliminary results were published with the notation "Further study required" and contained a number of puzzling observations. The space at the center of the anomaly exhibits unstable temporal characteristics, the report noted. Atomic clocks installed at different points in the study area showed a divergence of up to several microseconds over a distance of only 10 meters, a phenomenon that cannot be explained by known physical principles. Another strange phenomenon was continuity violations in photos and videos taken in the area. In some of the images, objects appeared that were not there when they were taken. Shadows of unidentified figures, blurred glowing spots, and in a few cases, the same pairs of eyes that were captured on Sarah's camera 16 years ago. We can't say with certainty that we're observing paranormal phenomena. Dr. Lewinsky was careful to formulate his position at the press conference. But we are dealing with physical processes that are at the frontier of our current understanding of quantum mechanics and the theory of relativity. In parallel with the physical research, anthropologist Maria Vasquez studied the legends and myths of local tribes that have inhabited the region for the past 3,000 years. She found remarkable similarities in the stories passed down orally through dozens of generations. All these peoples, who spoke different languages and had different cultural traditions, described certain places in the mountains as special points of contact between worlds, Vasquez explained. They called them different things: doors between worlds, spirit paths, places of the thin skin of the world, but the essence was the same. They were places where one could see with other eyes, pass into the spirit world while remaining alive, change forever. The legends constantly referred to beings watching from beyond the edge, guardians or guardians of the passages, who could both help a person in traveling between worlds and trap a careless traveler between realities. These creatures were always described with a characteristic detail: eyes that glowed in the dark, set wider than those of humans or animals. The gorge area is now completely closed to the public and has been declared an environmental monitoring zone. Satellite images show the presence of scientific equipment and the occasional presence of research teams. A double security perimeter is set up around the area, patrolled by armed rangers. The airspace above the gorge has been declared a restricted area for all types of aircraft, including drones. National Park Service officials refuse to comment on the special status of the area, citing the ecological sensitivity of the zone, and the need to prevent human impact. There are rumors in journalistic circles about classified government experiments being conducted in the gorge, but there is no reliable confirmation. What really happened to Alex Meyer and Sarah Kinski in those mountains in the summer of 2002? Were they victims of a tragic accident in a harsh wilderness? Did they encounter something beyond our understanding of reality? Or, as Alex suggested in his last video message, did they voluntarily cross some boundary between worlds, seduced by the possibility of seeing something beyond the reach of ordinary human perception? The theory of quantum anomalies, proposed by Richard Cochrane, suggests the possibility of space-time points where the barriers between different quantum states thin out, allowing leakage between parallel versions of reality. Modern physics does not deny the possibility of multiple realities. It follows from the most fundamental equations of quantum mechanics. But can people consciously move between these realities? And if so, what awaits them on the other side? Perhaps the answer lies in the very photos with frightening eyes taken by Sarah's camera. The eyes of beings watching us from across the thin line between the known and the unfathomable. Eyes that, if you look closely at the digital copies of the photos, some researchers claim change position from viewer to viewer, as if continuing to watch anyone who dares to peer into this mystery. Are you sure that right now, while reading these lines, no one is looking at you across the boundary between worlds?